Let's delve into where this is all at. Professor Simon Jackman, the Chief Executive Officer at the US Study Centre, joins me now. More. Thanks very much for your time. Look, I guess we better start on the perception Donald Trump's trying to put out there. Hey, I'm not even watching this thing. Don't worry about it. I'll come up and make some off-the-cuff remarks. And then the truth. Well, he had it written out in his big, thick black text of what he wanted to get across to the media there.
Yeah, he was certainly watching Today because Sondland is his hand-picked ambassador to the EU, a big contributor to his campaign, and one of the witnesses we most thought, you know, because he's been in direct contact with the president, would be most able to implicate Trump himself. And so no surprises that, yeah, the president was paying close attention to this one, despite what he may have been saying about his attention to earlier testimony.
All right, so let's talk through Sondland. We've got clear accusations coming from a former Trump donor, as you say, turned US ambassador to the EU. He is trying to implicate Donald Trump in a plot to pressure Ukraine quite directly, and that he was following, and other people were following presidential orders. I guess the first question is how credible, and then how damaging?
Yeah, that's first-hand testimony about the path that runs from Trump through Giuliani to him and throwing Mulvaney and the Secretary of State Pompeo into that network as well. The package you played, though, I thought made a really good point. You know, what he thought the quid pro quo was about a White House meeting. And the same witness, you know, Sondland also says he only inferred that it was with respect to military aid. And so Republicans tonight in the US were jumping all over that, looking for some good news for them, whereas Democrats, of course, you know, seizing on the fact that Sondland has connected dots now that go all the way back to the president.
So it was also put out there that Trump wanted Ukraine to actually announce investigations. Does that go to something, as you say, that the debate is around whether there was anything concrete or not, but if he wanted an announcement, does that point to something concrete, or can you talk about, well, it's just inferred still?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to get very technical and legal about it, that looks like, you know, inviting a foreign power to intervene in a US domestic matter, and on its face would be illegal is against American electoral law. Now, of course, we're in the realm of impeachment, where this is about a political consideration, what members of Congress feel as though they could vote for in the House to impeach, and I presumably ultimately in the Senate for conviction, and, you know, where the question is removal from office. Does it rise to the level of impeachment? That is not really a legal question. It is fundamentally a political question. And while the two camps are so entrenched in their own worlds, listening to each other's media commentators, taking what they want from the testimony of the day, I don't see a lot of minds changing here, despite the fact that this evidence was actually quite compelling, suggesting that, yes, the President of the United States has been inviting the commission of what would be a crime if it weren't in the realm of presidential politics.
What does it say about the impeachment process that we're all sitting here assuming it won't happen, the Senate won't change their minds no matter almost how compelling this is? Is the process okay? I mean, should it really be a very, very high bar? Is it going to be used in the future as a political pre-election tool to get the president of the day and trying to remove the incumbency advantage?
I don't know that we're ever going to get that far down the road, Tom. My take on this is that very few minds are going to change. And it says something about the American media environment rather than the facts of the matter. Republicans are listening to a set of media outlets that are seizing on what is possibly the the good takeouts for them, and you've got Democrats tuning in to other outlets, and you've got poor old CNN struggling for audience share in the middle. But that's the point. You know, the audience numbers will go tonight in the United States. You know, 3.5 million for Fox, 3.1 for MSNBC, and about 1.6 million for CNN. Those are big numbers if this was Australia, but we're talking the United States. But that just tells you about where the viewers are and how little room there is to move minds in the middle here. And what I expect, you know, we'll roll into next year. There will be a trial in the Senate. It's hard to see that he won't be impeached. But in that trial in the Senate, I still wonder if there is a single Republican that would vote for removal from office on the facts as we understand them to date.
Yeah, and I suppose if they do, it's going to be read as a statement more than anything else. I mean, what you talk about there, I suppose, speaks to the extent of tribalism right now within US politics. You need to be on a side more than ever, I suppose, and that may or may not end with Donald Trump.
And Tom, it speaks to, you know, what do we see Donald Trump doing every weekend? He's on a plane going to a red state where he fills an aircraft hangar, a stadium full of people. That's that base, and he keeps them rusted on and enjoying 88 and 90% approval ratings among, admittedly, a minority of the population, but one that Republican caucus in the Senate and the House, their political fate is tied to them, because what are they coming up on right now? It's primary season in the United States. And your first hurdle to getting back, and perhaps for a lot of them, the only significant hurdle, is winning that Republican primary. And Trump has shown that he will go after dissenters. And Exhibit A would be Jeff Flake, a senator, former senator from the state of Arizona, who we're hosting here in Australia in January, by the way. But Jeff Flake is the example of what happens to a Republican senator who gets out of line. Trump's popularity with the base means he can come after them and exert a discipline on his own, members of his own party, that frankly we associate more with a Westminster style of government than we typically associate with the American style of government.
Just finally and briefly, Simon, do you think in the trade war, the latest dispatches out of this, that pressure is building on Donald Trump to in some way plant a mission accomplished flag ahead of the election?
Yeah, that's a great question, and one a lot of us are looking at. Again, things that get blown off the front page by impeachment. You know, the Iowa polling is fascinating. That's a farm state. It's so politically consequential. Trump took it with a 10-point swing towards him in 2016. Some early numbers suggest he could be in trouble there, given the double whammy of trade war, but the way it bangs particularly hard on the heads of farmers, and that's, you think Iowa, you think corn and soybeans in particular, two exports that have been really hit by the trade war with China. If Trump is in trouble in Iowa, and there's some polls suggest that if the candidate was Biden, he might be, that's a real sign. So, yeah, keep an eye on that space. I think once we get past impeachment, the focus will return back to the more conventional drivers of American politics. And in a presidential election year, that is the state of the economy, and in those swing states in particular.